Hey, what's going on guys, it's Cynical and welcome back to another Stellar Blade video. Today for you guys we've got a ton of information to go over, as recently the games director Kim Hyung-tae has been doing the PR rounds talking to a bunch of journalists and outlets, mainly from Games Radar, RuliWeb, and Push Square. In case you guys missed the previous Stellar Blade video, be sure to check that out. That goes over everything you need to know about the basics of the game. But we have even more juicy details regarding one of the most highly anticipated hack and slash games of 2024. So let's dive into it. So Kim was asked what makes Stellar Blade's combat system unique compared to other hack and slash titles. I love how he starts off with battles occur with an attractive female protagonist who uses a blade. He's like, alright lads, first things first, the most important point is our MC is attractive. All of the boys and even the girls who are into the girls are going to be foaming. He goes on to mention we put practically everything you can do with a blade into the game. You get to use different combos and skills, but that doesn't mean you can just thoughtlessly use them. Instead, you need to learn the patterns of the monsters and think about how you want to attack. It's a bit of a back and forth between you and the enemies. Notably, there are different support features that will make the game more accessible to those who aren't as familiar with action games, so you can still experience it. So this was the point that we were talking about in the previous video, but the game is an action hack and slash title. You have combos, you also have unique skills that you can change in and out and upgrade. There is parrying, there is evasion, and yes, you do have to study enemy attack patterns in a sort of similar fashion to a Souls-like game. But keep in mind, this isn't necessarily a Souls-like title. It's nice to know that Stellar Blade will include some accessibility options for those people that aren't exactly too great with action-orientated games in real time, but still want to be able to experience the narrative. Now we know there's going to be about 30 different outfits in Stellar Blade that you can customize Eve with, and some of them are,
"Forgive me, Father. Please close your eyes, as for today I must sin."
You'll acquire these via progressing the main story or completing side quests, as well as crafting. However, Kim has also mentioned that you can even unlock hairstyles as well as different accessories like earrings and glasses. So there is going to be a pretty surface level option of customization, which is nice. Now, for those of you who don't know, the actual model of Eve in the game is 3D scanned from a real person. Yeah, alright, settle down people. I see you, Timmy, in the back, getting a little bit frisky with it. Eve's character model was 3D scanned after Korean model Shin Jae-eun. However, it is important to know that Eve's character model is not literally a one-to-one replication of Shin Jae-eun's figure. They essentially 3D scanned her and used her body as a reference point to create Eve. Kim mentions here, we did base the character of Eve on the model Shin Jae-eun. We thought that her body shape would be a good reference for the character that we were pursuing, but the face was created originally in-house. It's just the body of the model that we scanned for the game. Of course, it depends on how you define beautiful bodies, but for us, we wanted to come up with the most attractive looking body for the user, so this is why we made the decision to work with her. The team at Shift Up are known for, I guess you could say, over-sexualizing female characters. Now, I'm not saying this as a bad thing. I definitely know that within the video game community, there are some people that kind of have issues with this sort of a thing, especially in Asian territories though. There is this thing with hot anime girl with large breasts or massive ass. And you know, there is sort of a reason why this is a thing, because sex grabs attention. At the end of the day, homie, we're all animals. I think you just have to look at Shift Up's previous work, the mobile phone game known as Nikkei. That'll pretty much show you the sort of stuff that Shift Up are into. Help. So it's not surprising to see that here with Stellar Blade, they have a very, very attractive main character. Speaking on the topic of attractive main character, Kim mentioned to Games Radar that when it comes to the design, we put special attention on the back of the character because the player is always facing the back of the character when they're playing. That's what they see most of, so we thought that this was pretty important. This is kind of why they put special attention into the fact that yes, Eve has good booty game. This dude is not wrong though, right? You are spending most of your time when you're playing a video game, if it's a third person game, action game, whatever, you see the back of them. This is kind of the ingenious thing that Yoko Taro, I guess, sort of popularized. Not to say that there weren't other 3D action games with an attractive female with a nice figure, but Nier Automata certainly blew it out of the water and into the mainstream with 2B, especially with the option to literally take off her skirt. As we know, Stellar Blade is heavily inspired through the likes of Yoko Taro's work and Nier Automata, so it's kind of fitting here that we see very, very similar stuff. Kim went on to mention to Games Radar, honestly, when I play a game, I would like to see someone who is better looking than myself. That's what I want. I don't want to see something normal, I want to see something more ideal. I think that is very important in a form of entertainment. This is, after all, entertainment targeted to adults. I think this is a response coming from how there are some people within the community kind of going up in arms that, oh, this is another game that is made for weebs, quote unquote virgins, essentially making these over-sexualized characters. For one, it is a video game that is created for adults. And if this is the kind of thing you're into, aka myself, then hey, that's great, you're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. If you don't like this kind of thing, you know what the amazing thing about life is? You don't have to experience it. You can look the other way. You can go play Fortnite. You can go play Call of Duty. You can play Mahjong or Solitaire. Whatever rocks your socks, man. I mean, I gotta question you a little bit though, if you're not into video game or movie with attractive man or woman. Like, what are you into, rocks? Do trees do it for you? Maybe a car exhaust? Or are you more of a mayonnaise jar type of person? Stellar Blade will include about 100 different tracks of music for its soundtrack and will also contain various kinds of different choruses and human voices contained within them, very similar again to the soundtrack of Nier Automata, and Nier Replicant. But what's cool about this is 40% of the game's soundtrack is actually composed by Kichi Okabe, who is the composer of Nier. So there is going to be that Nier flavor infused into Stellar Blade, not just looking at the actual gameplay genre or the attractive main character, but even in the music sense of things, it's going to be quite Nier-ish. So if you are a Nier fan, Stellar Blade is a must. Really Web asked about Stellar Blade's delay, as it was meant to release in December of last year. Kim mentioned it was not that it was defective, however, they needed more time to simply just polish. So it's great that Sony allowed Shift Up a little bit more time to fine-tune the game. Also, the playtime of Stellar Blade is about 25 hours for the main story and anywhere from 30 to 50 hours if you're going for a completionist run. This is actually quite long for a hack and slash title, but I love this. We also know that there are going to be semi-open world setups, there are also side quests, other activities like fishing as well as crafting, so there's a lot to keep the player engaged here rather than just a linear experience of hack and slashing enemies into little bits of tuna. And speaking of side quests, these are picked up in a little village town hub area. Now, as you complete these, more side quests will become available to engage in, but different developments around the village and more characters will be added as you engage in these side quests. These are completely optional, you do not have to do them at all, but you can actually see changes within the world as you progress through the side content. Really Web asked about DLC, is this going to be a thing for Stellar Blade? Kim mentioned, for now I am focused on the title itself and I think it will be good to prepare for it in the future. Of course, we will continue to develop the game by continuously updating it. Now, there is going to be updates after release, whether or not this is just hotfixes or patches, or perhaps maybe small content drops is unknown, but looking at DLC, this is usually only a thing for if the project is successful after release. I have a feeling that Stellar Blade, because it's already generating a lot of traction, will likely end up receiving some DLC of some kind. However, Shift Up is preparing for a possible DLC, so that's good to know. And lastly, Kim gave us a little bit of context regarding the BU and BE gauges that are part of the heads-up display. He mentioned the gauges you mentioned are beta energy and burst gauges. Beta energy fills up when parrying or attacking, and depending on this energy, you can use beta skills that can be strengthened in the skill tree. The burst gauge is a gauge that fills up when a boss or enemy uses a special skill, a color appears on screen, and you respond accordingly or use evasion. This gauge is used when using a skill following parrying or evasion. So beta energy is going to be your main gauge for being able to utilize the skills that you can equip as well as level up that are displayed down the bottom right of the screen. It seems like the burst gauge gives the player a slight edge when enemies are performing their special attacks. It seems that if you evade correctly during one of these special attacks, this gauge will fill and you can then perform parry-based skills, which I would only assume will do a lot of damage compared to just normal skills using burst energy. So that provides you guys with a little bit more context towards Stellar Blade. It's great to get all of this information to form a proper understanding as to how this game works and what's going to be included and what we should expect from it. You guys already know it, but this is one of my most anticipated games for 2024. I simply cannot wait, and April cannot come soon enough. Thanks so much to my patrons. It really is thanks to you guys that I'm able to do some different kind of content in the interim of while Kingdom Hearts is a little bit quiet, so I really appreciate the support. Be sure to check out my other social media platforms as well as the second channel, and subscribe here to TGJ to keep up with everything. Have a guys, I'm Cynical, hopefully having a fantastic day, and we'll talk real soon. Peace.